And we are live. Welcome everyone to yet another live Monday. My name is Laura Cantu and I'm super excited to be back here on YouTube and on Facebook for yet another live stream event. Today we are talking about the 4 most important aspects of a college application. This is a very important topic. This is a subject that is full of valuable information, a subject that is going to help students, that are juniors or, who are freshmen, sophomores. Honestly, it's going to help any sort of student that has not gone through the college application process yet, because it's going to be talking about, college essays. We're going to be talking about standardized test scores, when to start preparing for this, when to start writing college essays. I will be explaining why these things matter. I will kind of give you an insight on how universities, how college admissions officers look at a college application, what they prioritize in a college application, and also I will be sharing some tips on how to improve a college application. So make sure that you stay tuned, that you watch all the way through, that you share this video with somebody who might benefit from it, and also make sure that you ask questions, because at the end of the live stream, I always take my time to answer your questions. So make sure that you're asking them in the chat. And additionally, my brother David, is going to be in the comment section, answering questions in case I don't get to answer something. I see that we have Jenna Dean watching us, saying hello. Hello, Jenna. Thank you so much for coming back. We also have Lilia in the chat. Hi, Lilia. And Best College Aid, this is David, basically monitoring this live stream and, staying in the chat, making sure that there are no questions that go unanswered, and just maybe answering questions that come along while I'm doing the presentation, because sometimes I will be talking, explaining a point, and somebody will ask a question in the chat. So sometimes it's nice to have somebody to, monitor the chat, like a proctor for the chat. So definitely stay tuned if you do ask a question in the comment section. And remember that we always encourage you to ask questions, because we want to make these live streams as interactive as possible, okay? I also want to remind you about our weekly live stream schedule. Remember that we do lives every week. We do it in 4 different platforms. We go live in 4 different platforms. We do YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Mondays are our YouTube and Facebook live streams, and we do it in Spanish and in English. 1 p.m. Spanish, as you can see here, and 3 p.m. English in Facebook and on YouTube. And then on Tuesdays, which is tomorrow, we go live at 1 p.m. in Spanish for Instagram and TikTok, and at 3 p.m. for English. And here are our social media handles for our, other social medias. If you happen to be watching us on YouTube and on Facebook right now, and if you don't follow us on TikTok or on Instagram or, wherever you're watching from, if you don't follow our social media or other platforms, I strongly encourage you to do so, because we post a lot of valuable content in all of our different social media platforms, content that can benefit you, content that, if you're a parent, can benefit your student, if you're a student, content that you can share with other students. And we always try to share insightful information, maybe short little tips that might benefit you, or maybe they don't benefit you now because you're in middle school, or your students, maybe a freshman, but eventually, it will. So it's important to know these type of things. So make sure that you follow us in our social media channels, and that you stay tuned for, every Monday and Tuesday that you join us during these live events, because like I said, we share a lot of valuable information and we try to help you guys out a lot. So as I said, today we're talking about the 4 most important aspects of a college application. As I said, there are different things that college admissions officers are looking for when they look at a student's college application. They are not only looking at grades, they are not only looking at standardized test score results. They look at different things. And today I will dive into those things and I will explain the importance of each and every single thing so that you can kind of have a head start and kind of have an understanding on what you can do to improve your college application so that you can maximize the odds of being accepted at your dream school. Now, if you are just a freshman, remember, or if you're in middle school, knowing these things is really important because it can, if you know things ahead of time, you can set out a plan and, plan to do these things, do everything you need beforehand. And then when it comes to applying to college, by the time you're a senior or your student is a senior, you will already know, have paved a way, have a path that has led you to this moment. With that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started with today's presentation, the 4 most important aspects of a college application. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started. So before we begin, let's talk about something that has been happening in the past couple of years. There's been a big college enrollment drop, a drop in enrollment for college students. As a matter of fact, in the last 2 years, undergraduate enrollment has declined by 6.6%, which is about 1 million students, a little bit over 1 million students. So ever since, a little bit before the pandemic started, there's been a drop in enrollment. So less students have been enrolling in college compared to, 2017, 2018. And obviously, COVID played a huge role in this decline, in this, enrollment drop. It played a big role in students, maybe not wanting to go to college for many reasons. Obviously, COVID hit families and people in different ways. Some people were hit economically. Some people were maybe disencouraged. There's a lot of students who are just not choosing to not go to school because they're not, they don't see a point in it. They don't think it's worth it. They believe that they're not going to get financial aid. And, when it's not the case, as we talk about it here in a lot of our presentations, there are ways to go to college without falling into debt. But yes, unfortunately, there's been a huge drop in college enrollment lately. And, there are many factors, many different angles that are affecting this enrollment rate drop. So, so that is something that is happening right now. And, with this enrollment drop could be temporary, as I said, the pandemic was a big factor in this drop. But, there is, I guess, a flip side with this enrollment drop. There might be higher odds of getting accepted right now if the students, put in the effort and try to apply to colleges, right? And, they try to go because less students are applying. So I guess the chances of getting accepted might be higher for other students. So if anything, it might be a great time right now to apply to colleges. As you can see here, applications to highly selective colleges that use the common application have soared to over 25% over the past 2 years. So, like we said, there's always a flip side to every situation. So, yes, there is a college enrollment drop, but this doesn't mean that you should be or your students should be part of this enrollment drop or shouldn't be enrolling. They should be taking advantage of this and trying to enroll into college. Now, I want to talk about today's presentation. We are talking about the 4 most important aspects of a college application. When it comes to going to college, specifically college in the United States, there is a process, my family is from Mexico, and, we have a lot of international students that come up to us and ask us questions about how college works in the United States. Because, college here in America, in order to get accepted, in order to, go to college here, students have to go through a process, right? And it's an application process that consists of different things, different materials that students have to collect and, submit to a college. Now, college admissions officers, they will look at these applications, and then they will make a decision whether or not to accept a student. Now, I do want to say today's presentation is about what those college admissions officers, what colleges look at, and what they prioritize when looking at a, college application, at a student's college application. Now, every college has different priorities, or some colleges might not look at standardized tests, might make it optional for certain students, might only have a personal essay. In some other colleges might require a personal essay and additional essays. But this is the most general thing, what we'll be talking about that most colleges look at. So with that being said, why don't we get started with this portion of the presentation, which is, an overview of the four important aspects that colleges look at when reviewing an application, a student's application. So the first thing is, not the first thing, but one of the things is personal essay and or supplemental questions. By the way, I will go into depth with all of these. I will explain every one of them. So just keep that in mind. Right now, I'm just giving you an overview. And another thing that I do want to mention before I keep going is that every college might prioritize these differently. Some colleges will be kind of like 25, 25, 25, 25, prioritize each of these aspects equally. Some of them will prioritize maybe the essay and the grades more than the other two, or some schools will prioritize standardized test scores and GPA more than they would extracurriculars and the essay. But at the end of the day, most schools, or, mostly every school, will look at these four aspects: the personal essay, the extracurricular activities, the grades or GPA, and the standardized test scores. They will consider them, they will play a big aspect of, making a decision on whether or not to accept a student. So, personal essay, some colleges require a big, a big college essay, or, which is like the bigger essay, the longer one. And they will also have supplemental questions, which is, a few questions that are maybe 2 or 3 questions that are short response essays that the student might have to fill out and, talk about. Obviously, these supplemental essays are not as in-depth, or as, they might not be the biggest part of the application, but it's still important to fill these out. I will get into that later. Another aspect of a college application, extracurricular activities, which, we talk about extracurricular activities a lot, here in our live streams, in our Spanish live streams, and a lot of our students at Best College Aid, prioritize extracurricular activities because not only can they help students get accepted into a school, they could also maximize the odds of receiving financial aid and scholarships. All right. So, another aspect, an important aspect of a college application is grades. Obviously, in most cases, grades might have a little bit of a heavier weight on a college application, depending on the school, but a lot of schools, want to see students who have good grades, and having good grades can increase the chances of getting accepted. And finally, standardized test scores. I will talk about standardized test scores in a little bit. I will talk about all of these, but we do get a lot of questions about standardized tests, for specifically the college admissions ones, because we're talking about college applications, which are the SAT and the SAT. And, a lot of colleges are going test optional. Some colleges are still requiring it. So I will answer those questions in a little bit. But those still play a part on the college admissions process in most colleges and universities, so keep that in mind. A lot of colleges still require these. There might be changes coming up soon. I mean, there definitely will be changes for the SAT specifically in a couple of years. It will be fully online. It's going to be a digital test, so it's not going to be the traditional pen and pencil, pencil and paper test anymore. So those changes are coming. So now that it's digital, maybe colleges will say, you know what, it's digital, so we will definitely require this, or maybe we'll steer away from that. So, if you're a freshman or if you have students who are in middle school, if you're a middle school student, this could affect you. This will affect you eventually because these changes are coming up. So definitely keep that in mind and stay up to date, stay updated with all this type of information. All of our members inside of Best College Aid, get all these news, all this information. We talk about it with them. We keep them updated. And if they have any questions, we always, stay up to date ourselves so we can, help them. So that's another great benefit of being a Best College Aid member. Alrighty, so personal essay. Let's talk about these 4 aspects in depth a little bit more. So let's start with personal essay, the personal essay. So this is something that most colleges will require students to write. Most colleges have a big, a longer personal essay prompt that they ask students to fill out. Most colleges will use the common application. Not all colleges, there's also coalition application, or some colleges have their own college application website. And basically what these are is, platforms where students will submit their application. They will submit their application through these platforms. But the most common one, let's talk about the common application. This is a platform that a lot of colleges in America use. Most colleges in the United States use this platform. And every year, the common application has around 5 prompts. Let me show you the website so you can see the common application. The common application. It's a website. Let's see, it's right here. This is the common app. Apply to college for the first time. Transfer, as you can see everything on the screen. You can see which colleges do the common app and basically create an account. Students will use this, create an account at colleges, submit their applications through this platform if they are applying to colleges that use the common application. So basically, as I said, every year the common application has around 4 or 5 prompts that students can choose from, write an essay, a personal essay about, and the colleges that use the common application, usually use these prompts basically. So students can write not the same exact essay because each college is different, but if there is one common app essay, they already kind of have an outline once they write or answer the question to one essay, and they could reuse it, maybe switch some things, specify why that school matters to them, etc. But yes, the essay the big essay, not the common app essay, but the personal essay, which is something that most colleges, wrong slide, will require students to write. A great essay can help students stand out from other applicants, Many colleges, specifically selective colleges such as Ivy Leagues, which are the most competitive schools, not even just Ivy Leagues, big universities that are also competitive, private colleges as well. They put a big emphasis on these essays because usually students who are applying to highly competitive schools or schools that have a little bit more of a, they have their acceptance rates are lower because they're more competitive. A lot of students who are applying to these schools might have, have worked really hard throughout high school, done a lot of extracurriculars. So the more selective the school, the higher the chances of putting more emphasis in a personal essay, because the personal essay is the perfect opportunity for the student to really show their personality, to show who they are, tell a story about them that sets them apart from other students. Because, there are, unless a student does a personal interview, a college interview, which is, there are two types of interviews, but there are interviews that are for specifically admissions interviews. So unless a student does that, there are a few opportunities for the student to basically show their personality, to kind of shine in a way, because they can show who they are, what their interests are, something that shaped them, etc. These essays are meant for students to display their personality, to stand out. So personal essays are very important, and it is something that, many colleges, specifically the more competitive ones, will look at very, very closely. And some colleges, as I said, will ask for students to write supplemental essays, which supplemental essays, as I mentioned, are basically short answer questions that colleges will ask students. They will ask questions such as, talk of a specific time that shaped who you are, or how did extracurriculars shape you, or why do you want to go to this school? And usually supplemental essays, there's a word limit, word count limit, and the answer has to be, the question has to be answered in like a paragraph. So these are a very great opportunity, another opportunity for the student to showcase who they are. And one thing that I always tell my students inside of Best College Aid is that if a college application has supplemental essays that are listed as optional, always answer these questions. Trust me, if you don't answer them, it might work against you, because most students will be answering those, and you want college admissions officers to get to know you, right? And what better chance than having more time to kind of talk about something, answer a question, show your personality through your writing. So this is the first aspect. And when I say first, I don't mean the most important aspect, but is one of the most important aspects of a college application that colleges look at. All right, now, moving on from essays, now let's talk about extracurricular activities. This is another super important aspect of a college application. Extracurricular activities, as I said, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago in a live stream and in our Spanish live streams as well. Actually, we talked about it last week in our Q&A. But extracurricular activities, what's amazing about them is that, these can maximize the odds of receiving scholarships and getting accepted. So not only does practicing an extracurricular look great in a college application, it could also help students get scholarships, right? I received a scholarship, a theater scholarship, when I went to college, just because I did theater and I love theater. And I obviously started doing theater from early on in high school, my second year of high school. I joined my theater club, and, I even started preparing, because I did musical theater for this extracurricular activity when I was a child, because my parents always put me in dance lessons. So this dancing background helped me with this extracurricular activity. It helped me find kind of like performing arts, and then specifically theater, musical theater was kind of like my thing. So when I was going to high school and when I was applying to colleges, I knew that I wanted to continue to do this when I was in college. I was motivated, and I basically applied to schools, I applied to universities that offered theater programs and theater scholarships. So, that's just one example. My brother David, he did swimming since he was really young. He knew that he wanted to swim in college. And, when he was in high school, he was part of a club team. He was part of also our school's swim team. He went through the recruitment process, and he was actually able to get an $8,000 scholarship per year. So he would get $8,000 every year to swim in college. He was a D1 athlete, and he continued to do what he loved, and he was basically getting paid for it. So, nevertheless, extracurriculars are a great way to get scholarships and potentially get accepted. In colleges also look at extracurriculars, not only if it's like a big extracurricular, a sport, that you might continue to do in college, but also colleges also care about the other type of extracurriculars that are, more like clubs and organizations. And when they look at these extracurricular activities, if students are part of extracurricular of organizations and clubs, they look for two things. They look for leadership and duration. What does that mean? Basically, colleges, want obviously students who found one extracurricular activity, such as a sport, such as an art, an academic one, such as, being part of the robotics club, engineering club, etc. But they also want students who were involved in their community, involved in their school. So, for example, I was all my siblings and myself were part of our school's National Honor Society. And my senior year, I was the president of the National Honor Society. Of course, there wasn't a National Honor Society in college. I mean, there's actually a National Honor Society, like a collegiate level one, like honor societies. And usually they can be for specific, majors or degrees. But I'm talking about the high school one. When I was in high school, I was part of my school's National Honor Society. I was the president. So this was a great example of an additional extracurricular activity, specifically an organization that it's made for students who want to be leaders. I obtained a leadership position within this club, and this was a great addition to my college application. It was something that I actually was able to talk about in a college interview that I did for Syracuse University, and I believe two of my supplemental essays for different schools, I was able to talk about this specific leadership position. So it's all full circle, right? It all works. So being involved, being a leader, being part of extracurricular, of clubs and organizations can help you write an essay. It can give you something to talk about. It helps you be more attractive to colleges. It helps you stand out. So extracurriculars, yes, find something that you might be able to continue to do in college so that you can get accepted and you can get scholarships for it, but also be involved, be part of organizations where you can display your leadership and be part of these organizations and clubs, preferably earlier on, because if you're part of a club early on, you can have a lot of clubs and organizations in college, such as NHS, National Honor Society, such as, biology clubs, such as maybe the Spanish Honor Society, Best Buddies, these are clubs that in most high schools, if students want to get a leadership position, maybe the president, the treasurer, the bookkeeper, they might hold some sort of, voting, or they might do elections. Teachers might choose students who were involved from the beginning. So if you want to be able to be part of an organization's board or be a leader within that organization by the time that you are a junior or a senior, you have to start early on so that you can kind of show the members or whoever's in charge of this club that you care. And also colleges will see that you started being part, or that your student was part of, let's say, Best Buddies since their freshman year, and they were presidents their senior year, and they want to either join Best Buddies if that college has that club, because there's a lot of college, Best Buddies college level clubs in colleges, and there are colleges that don't have Best Buddies. So maybe you could bring that to that college. That could be something that you can talk about in your essay. And now I'm getting into tangents, but I am just showing you all the things that you can do to stand out and things that colleges look for or want in their applicants. So look at those amazing tips. Alrighty, so extracurriculars. Finally, the one thing I do want to say is find your passions when it comes to choosing an extracurricular activity or clubs or organizations to be a part of. Choose something that you like. I loved theater, and I loved, the National Honor Society because of the chapters. They had different things that my school specifically stood for. We stood for, and that organizations that we would raise funds for and donate money to, different hospitals, different, fundraisers that we did. So, I really liked that aspect of the National Honor Society at my school, and I wanted to make a difference, and I was really passionate about it. That's why I ran for president. So definitely find organizations that you are passionate about, find extracurriculars clubs that you like, because it will make being part of that club, being part of a team, much easier than if you kind of just joined it because, I joined this because it would look good in a college application, but now I'm kind of over it and I don't want to do it anymore. So do something that you like. All right. Okay, moving on to grades and GPA. All right, so grades, most colleges, specifically actually just, the selective universities will put a big emphasis on grades. That will be the first thing that they look at. Of course, there are all sort of universities. Some universities, might care more about extracurriculars if they're trying to recruit you. Or they might care more about your leadership position. But when it comes to grades, most colleges will look at grades, and that will be a big deciding factor on whether or not you will get accepted. Because grades, a GPA, a good GPA can reflect a student's performance and persistence throughout their high school career. So, this means, like, let's say a student kept all straight A's throughout high school. This shows that the student was dedicated. Even so, same thing goes for students who might have started high school with maybe a C, or they got, a couple of B's, but then throughout high school, they were able to bring their GPA up. Don't be discouraged if you're a freshman or if you have a student who is a freshman or a sophomore who had a hard time in the beginning. There's always a chance to kind of like show that you can rise, and you can get better grades. So this is another reason why colleges look at grades. They don't only look at just your GPA, they will look at every grade that you got from freshman year to senior year. So don't be discouraged if you got a bad grade in one class. It's all about, coming back and, redeeming yourself. So, grades, believe it or not, they do have, it's not only like, this person has a 4.3 GPA or this person has a 3.1 or a 2.9, Colleges will look at which classes you take, what you want to major in. Let's say you want to major in biology. They will probably see, okay, this person took honors bio, but then, their sophomore year or junior year, they took AP bio. They took a lot of science-related APs or dual enrollment classes. So it's all connected, and colleges will see which courses you took. So definitely grades do play a big role, and it goes beyond getting all A's. For students who already know what they want to study, we always recommend maybe doing dual enrollment classes, taking APs that have to do with that area of studies. And a higher GPA obviously can maximize the odds of being accepted at selective universities. And also, another thing about good grades, a high GPA, having all of this can actually lead to merit-based scholarships, which is something that a lot of students don't know. A lot of students just relate good grades to getting accepted, but getting good grades, having a high GPA is a great way for students to get merit-based scholarships. And I meant to say this too with extracurricular activities. Being involved and having extracurricular activities in, under your belt, being a leader, and having been a leader for a long time, these are all things that colleges will look at. And there are students who get merit-based scholarships. So scholarships based on merit, on things that they did in high school. Many colleges award these things. I myself received the presidential scholarship at my school, which when I was in college, this was based on my grades in high school school, as well as my leadership roles. So being the president of the National Honor Society actually, helped me get the presidential scholarship along with my grades. But, this was something that, in the beginning I didn't know, but I was being rewarded for all the hard work. So don't think that, just getting good grades is going to help you get accepted. There's colleges, like I said, that offer merit-based scholarship based on good grades. There are colleges that offer full ride scholarships to certain students who got good grades throughout high school. That they offer full tuition scholarships. So it's not only about getting accepted, that's not the only benefit. You could also get scholarships for getting good grades. So keep that in mind. All right, so now finally, the last important aspect of a college application for most colleges is standardized test scores. There are two types of standardized test scores. There is the SAT exam or the ACT exam. Some colleges, most colleges, if not all, only require one. So I always tell my students, don't study for both. Don't stress about trying to be perfect or getting a high score for both exams. The best thing to do is figure out which test is better for you, the SAT or the ACT. And taking that test, studying for just one exam, practicing for that one exam, and trying to get a high score. Because, believe it or not, there are also colleges that do award merit-based scholarships based on standardized test results. So that's another incentive, right, to do well in these exams. Now, there are colleges, like I said, that are test optional, right? There are test optional schools that, due to COVID, due to maybe seeing that, they just change their mind, or they don't put as much of an emphasis on test scores. So they have made these exams test optional, right? They basically tell students, if you want to apply to this school and send in your score, feel free to apply. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Now, I'm going to, basically talk a little bit about the merit-based scholarships with this. Even a school could be test optional, and they might still offer institutional scholarships based on test scores. So just because a school is test optional, unless you took the exam and you practiced and your student really didn't perform well in these exams, of course don't send those tests. But if you know that you could practice and you can get a high score, it's better to submit a really high and to try to get a high score because, as I said, this could improve the chances of being accepted, but additionally, the chances of receiving merit-based scholarships. And another thing about standardized tests, specifically in test optional schools, if the school is test optional, I recommend students still should be trying to get a still be trying to study for these exams and aiming to get a high score, and go ahead and submit those scores because, let's say there's two students that apply to a test optional school, right? And they both have similar grades. They both practice some sort of extracurricular activity. They all had similar, volunteer experience, etc. And their essays were really strong, but one of them submitted good SAT scores and the other one didn't. Who do you think is going to get accepted? So, of course, it all depends. If you have a really strong application, if your student has a really strong application and they might not need to send in their test scores, go ahead. But I always encourage students, and this is more for students who are just starting high school, try to practice for these exams early on because you want to have, do as much as you can to maximize the odds of getting accepted. And this goes for only test optional schools. There are still a lot of schools that still do require the SAT and the SAT one result from one standardized test score, exam. So don't think that just because a lot of schools are going test optional that you or your students shouldn't be preparing. This is why, it's not only about applying to colleges. There's a lot of work that goes before that, such as creating a college list, knowing which colleges are test optional, which colleges are not, because, a lot of students actually, they think that every school is test optional now. So by the time that they get to their senior year, they're filling out applications and they realize, oh my gosh, my dream school, the school that I want to go to real bad, actually is not test optional. They do require exams. So I should have been practicing or should have been studying for these exams earlier on. So it's important that students practice. It's important that students prepare for this, and these tests are important. Okay. So as I said, finally, inside of Best College Aid, there is a whole section dedicated to creating a great college application, writing a great college essay, how to create your common application profile, how to write great supplemental essays, because as I said, some colleges require more than just a personal statement, that personal essay. Additionally, I want to invite you to tomorrow's live streams that we do on Instagram and on TikTok. Make sure that you go follow us on our other social media platforms so that you can stay up to date with all of the content that we share. Thank you so much. Have a great week, because it's Monday. I was going to say have a great weekend, but no, have a great week because it's Monday, and I'll see you again hopefully tomorrow or next week. Thank you so much.